here we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Roxanne Molyneux, and I am Ojibwe. I am the daughter of Tom Molyneux, First Nation from Bear Island Reservation. I'm also the Indigenous Outreach Manager at Grow. We acknowledge the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaty and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon, Wampa Agreement. We are working closely with our Indigenous community to advocate for a just food system and to create a community food program that is culturally relevant, diverse, equitable, and inclusive. I'll now turn it over to Wynn so we can start cooking miigwech.
Thank you, Roxanne. Welcome everybody to our cooking session. This is the 7th cooking session with Grow. I've attended every one. I see some very special people on here. I'd say the specialist is Naomi Allen because she's my daughter, and everybody else pretty special here too. Okay, we are going to be cooking borscht. The main rule is there are no rules. If you don't have it, put in something else. If you don't like it, leave it out. And otherwise, the first thing we're going to start with is the barley. So whatever barley you have, I suggest you get some, and we're going to get that boiling first because the barley takes quite a while. So I'm going to put about 1/3 of a cup of barley. And at this point, I'm going to move this down and over. I'm putting about 1/3 of a cup of barley into a sieve, and I'm just going to give it a little rinse, just in case, I don't know, just in case. I'll give it a little rinse in the sieve. And then I'm going to put it in a pot. And I'm going to cover it with water and turn it on high to boil. If I put the lid on and it boils, I can guarantee that it will boil over. So I'm just going to keep an eye on it there. Now, I'll mention barley. You have the choice of whether you're going to use pearl barley or pot barley. No matter which one you have, it is really good for you. It's an ancient grain. Going back thousands of years, it's been used. Now, both pot barley and pearl barley have had their outer husk removed, but pot barley has had an extra little polishing, so it's not quite as nutritious as pot barley is. So if you are able to choose one over the other, I'd go for pot. If you've got pearl, that's good too. So barley's got all kinds of good things in there, fiber, which we need, antioxidants, and so much for barley. Okay, now we're going to put a little bit of oil in our soup pot, and we're going to start chopping up some garlic, and we're going to leave it on the side of the cutting board just for a little bit so that its good things get going. So garlic is so good for you that you should put it into just about everything except chocolate milk. And I don't know if you can see these garlics here. My husband Cal has grown these. Whoops. Well, I just dropped it in the salad dressing. That'll be really good later. A nice big splash. However, laptops like oil and dressing on them. Okay, we're going to chop up a few of these garlic cloves. Put in lots if you like lots. Put in less. Now, I can't speak strongly enough about the joys and the benefits of having a little garden. If you have space where you can grow food, then you are blessed indeed. You are guaranteed a happy summer. And you get to see all kinds of wildlife that comes to your garden, like rabbits and groundhogs and deer and turkeys. And they also will be happy that you've planted your garden. I see we've been joined by Chase, and Chase is the leader of the pack, and he did the first 4 cooking sessions, which I really enjoyed. So now I'm chopping up the garlic. You can use a garlic press if you like, or whatever. And sure enough, my barley is boiling. I put a lid on it so it hasn't gone over. Now, each of the foods in this soup is a powerhouse of nutrients. Every food is a superfood, and when you put them together in this soup, you really have a super soup. And I hope that you'll grow to like it as much as we do. Okay, I've chopped up my garlic. And I'm just going to let it sit for a while. Apparently, the good things in garlic get even better if they can sit there and think about it for a bit. And now I'm taking my celery, which I have washed already, and I'm going to chop that all up. And after the celery, we'll get going on the onions. Now, our granddaughter has found the best way to do onions, and she wears her swimming goggles. So she can chop onions without weeping. Okay, now my celery's in there. And I'm going to start with my onions, put in a couple of onions. I see somebody else has got swimming goggles. Excellent. Joseph can be the head chopper in your family. When our Larkin puts on her goggles, she looks like a Martian. I can see that Joseph is going to be a chef. Way to go, Joseph. Just make sure you got 10 fingers at the end of the day there, Joseph. I expect you've been told how to cut between your fingers and your thumbs rather than over them. So there's no rules about size. You can do big dice, little dice, sloppy dice. Doesn't matter. My onions were quite small, so I'm putting in 2. If you have a really big onion that you got from Grow on Saturday, you may need only 1.
I didn't hear what you said there. What was that you're putting in now?
I'm putting in a second onion. And I say, since it's a small one, I'm putting in a couple. But if you have a great big Grow onion, you probably are good with that. Now, what I'm putting everything into is this very high-tech composting bin. Originally held butter pecan frozen yogurt, but everything organic, absolutely everything goes out into the compost and then into the vegetable garden. Who needs fertilizers? The town keeps giving us green compost bins, and my husband keeps his walnuts in them for the birds because we don't put out any organics for the town. They all go into the garden. And since we're not having meat, there's no meat stuff there to attract rats and coyotes. Okay, I think my garlic has thought about it enough. I'm going to slide it in there with the onions. So now I've got 3 things. And it's starting to smell like dinner's on its way. Okay, next let's tackle the cabbage. Okay, when you do your cabbage, you want your heaviest big knife or your strongest man in your house because it's a challenge. So I'm using my super duper big cabbage knife. And put in just as much as you like, or as little as you like. If you haven't got cabbage, you can use Brussels sprouts, or you could put in kale, because they're all brassicas. And if you have a garden with brassicas, then you probably have little white, cabbage white butterflies, because they're going to lay their eggs on the leaves of the brassicas. And those eggs will become little green worms. And they'll eat holes in your veggies. Not to worry, you can buy Bacillus thuringiensis, which will kill those little green worms. So you can still enjoy your veggies. So I'm dicing up this cabbage rather sloppily, but it doesn't matter. And so far I haven't cut my fingers.
Win.
Yep.
How much cabbage are you using? About half a cabbage?
I haven't got half a cabbage yet. A third.
A third? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. How big did you cut the pieces, Win? Are they just sort of bite-sized pieces?
I'd say about a half-inch dice. Can you see that? Half-inch dice.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Really doesn't matter how big you make them. Put that in there and stir it around. It's going to soften. And it's smelling really good. Now, all of these vegetables that we've used so far is just so good for you. It's full of these antioxidants that are stopping those free radicals from causing problems in your body. So as you stir that around, you see it's all starting to soften. And mix it nicely with the celery and onion and garlic. So I've used my cabbage. How much have I used? I don't think I've used a third. Maybe a little bit like a third. Okay, I'm done with my cabbage. And now I'm going to look at beets. I got these beautiful beets at Grow on Saturday. The beets are so easy to grow in your garden. All those little friends out there, like the rabbits, the groundhogs, the turkeys, and the deer, will also appreciate your growing beets because the greens are good. The greens are good for you too, though. Now I have pre-cooked some beets here. My reason for doing that was that it was Cal's birthday on Saturday, and I made him a beet chocolate cake and pureed some beets, some cooked beets, which went into the chocolate cake. So I have a few beets that are already cooked, and I'm going to peel these and dice these now. So if you don't have beets that are already cooked, you take your raw beet. Now, I didn't know you could do all these things with raw beets until a few years ago. So this was all new to me, but I love it. So you're just going to peel your beet with a potato peeler. Just pretend that it's a potato and peel away. Raw beet, peel. Now, if you were to just slice off a little bit of this and eat it, you eat it just like a raw carrot. Oh, it is so good. So don't be afraid of raw beets. So once your beets peeled, you whack off the end that had the leaves on. You whack off the end that's got the skinny root on, and then you're going to dice it. Take a peek at your barley and be sure that it's not boiling dry. And turn your cabbage mixture over so it doesn't dry out or burn. So I'm just going to slice and dice the raw beets into a nice chunk. I don't worry about my hands getting pink. Doesn't bother me at all. This is a way. And of course you can roast beets. Just slice them or dice them, toss them with a little bit of seasonings and olive oil, roast them in the oven. That really brings out the sweetness. And ever so great. Now these beets are going to cook unless we get them in liquid. So if you've got stock in a carton, you can use it, or you can use water. What I'm going to use, whenever we cook vegetables, we keep the water that the vegetables have cooked in. And this is what I think of as vegetable stock. So I'm going to add this right now to my cabbage mixture. I want it to get boiling so I can put the beets in. So I never throw out any kinds of things in it still. Then you can slide your beets in there. Now from this point on, you're just going to add liquid whenever you feel like adding liquid. I'm not telling you how many cups because it's just you add it when it needs it. So I'm going to peel the rest of the beets that I've pre-cooked. And I'm not counting them, I'm just adding beets until it looks like it's enough beets. And everything's going to get beautifully pink. I want to give you a beet commercial. I'm a fan of beets. So I was looking up. Beets, of course, have lots of fiber in them, vitamin C, iron, magnesium. They're rich in nitrates. What the nitrates do is they help to relax your blood vessels. And when your blood vessels are relaxed, then your circulation is improved. So you're smarter because that extra circulation blood up into your brain is improving your memory and your brain function. It's also circulating around to your muscles. So if you are going to run a race or do anything where you need endurance, eat your beets because this is really going to give you a boost. So it's a performance enhancing non-drug. And you'll see that somebody has turned on our screen, and that's our beautiful daughter, Naomi. Hi, Naomi. Naomi's up in North Bay. And there's something really special about having daughters because you inspire each other. I think maybe, just maybe, Naomi got her love of good food from her family, but she pushed it even further and she inspires me. So there we go. We just leapfrog. She inspires me. Once in a while, I inspire her. And it's just a lovely arrangement. Okay, now my soup is really looking pink and gorgeous. And since it's boiling and there's liquid there, I'm going to dump the barley in. The reason that we started to pre-cook the barley was that it's going to take longer than everything else. So at this point, tip your barley into the pot. Now, once you got your barley in there, you're going to have to be adding more and more liquid because barley really soaks it up. So just keep adding beets until you think that's enough beets. I don't think you can have too many beets. Leave some room in the pot because you've got some other things to put in there too. I hope you still got some room in your pot. Now, another thing about gardens, and even if you don't have a garden, you have access to a market. When you're at the market, buy things in season. So in our garden, I do a lot of freezing of stuff. And in here, this is from July 28th. I have zucchini, basil, and tomato. So this is all from our garden. And what I've done is I've stewed up some tomatoes and sliced into that zucchini. And you know, if you grow zucchini, you never have the right amount of zucchini. You've only got too much. So here's my, whoops, well, I think I'd learned that spilling tomato juice on your laptop's not a good idea. However, I get smarter as I get older. So there's my tomato and zucchini and basil, and it is so good. It just tastes like July. And I'm going to tip most of it into my soup. Oh, the smell of that basil is incredible. It just comes whooshing out there and it reminds me of July. find it. I really like basil. I make what I call basil bombs. So at the end of the summer, when the basil is at its peak, then I harvest a whole lot of the leaves, chop them up some, and put them in the blender with a little bit of water. So I've got this green slurry, which I put into ice cube trays and freeze, and then you pop them out, and I've got a nice bag of basil bombs. So when I'm cooking anything that's got tomato in, I'll just take out a few of these and toss them in. Oh man, it's great. So if you don't have basil bombs in your freezer, just use some dried basil. So I get that at Bulk Barn. And at this point, if you've got some bay leaves, you could toss in some bay leaves. I'm going to toss in bay leaves. Don't get too many bay leaves. Now, you don't have to have a big garden to make basil bombs. I got a pot of basil at the supermarket, and when I got home, I filled a couple more bigger pots with compost and separated the individual basil plants and put them in. And they really did so well. So they didn't even go into the garden. They were just in my little pots. And then in August there, I had these wonderfully lush plants, and it was from them that I did the basil bombs. So I didn't need a garden for that at all. Now what? Well, I've still got a bit of room in my pot. So I'm going to put in some carrots. Now this carrot looks pretty good. I got it at Grow, of course it's good. And I could peel it, but I'm not going to peel it because the highest area of phytonutrients, in other words, good stuff, that's in a vegetable is where it interfaces with the world around it. So your highest level of antioxidants is where this meets the soil around it, and that protects it from everything in the soil, and it also protects you. So there's no reason on earth to peel this carrot. So let's just slice it and dice it and add it to the soup. Now, when Chase was doing our cooking sessions, he spoke about giving thanks to the Creator for all the food that we eat. And especially when I'm making soup, I do that. When I'm taking things out of the freezer and they smell so good, I'm giving thanks to Mother Nature, to the garden. So we've got our carrots all sliced and diced. Now, if you didn't have tomatoes from your freezer, then of course, then you can be using a can of tomatoes. You don't have to put tomatoes in, but tomatoes are so good and so good for you that I put them in. But you don't have to put them in. You don't have to do anything at all. Now I'm going to put in something that I know you haven't got, but I want to tell you about it anyhow. This is, it looks like ground up kibble for a dog or something, but this is textured vegetable protein. It's a soy protein that has been cooked and dried and shaped into this. And it is just chock full of protein, and it's a complete protein. So if you're following a vegan diet, then you need a complete protein in there. So this is why this will be good. If you're making a borscht and you wish to have ground beef in there or chunks of beef, by all means put it in, or put in pork or whatever you like. I'm sure you could put in chicken too, but I really like to boost everything so that I know that I've got a complete healthy meal here. And when I put this soy protein in, and Naomi is holding that up, and what's that called, Naomi? You have to turn your sound on.
No, this is TVP as well.
Okay, so there you are. And they also call it, what do they call it? Meatless crumbles. Ooh, that sounds good. Sounds like it's in a chocolate bar. So now, if you want to add an extra protein boost to your soup, you could put in a can of beans, or you could forget it. It's good soup, no matter what you do. But this TVP, if you put some hot water in it and reconstitute it, then it looks just like ground beef, and it's great for adding to spaghetti sauce or chili or whatever. So now my pot is really full. And, water. Swallowing up. And I don't have a lot of room to play with, but I do have in our freezer, we freeze a whole lot of green beans because green beans are like zucchini. You never have the right amount. You have too many. So I am taking these green beans from the freezer, and there's just barely enough room in my soup pot that I can add them. If you don't have green beans, don't worry. You can put in whatever you've got in your fridge. If you've got some kale there or some spinach. We haven't added any salt or seasonings other than the bay leaf and the basil. You probably will want to add some salt and pepper and whatever else you like. Another secret ingredient that I have is this soup mix, which Naomi made up for us a few years ago, and I have remade it several times. So its primary ingredient is nutritional yeast, and there's dried onion powder, dried garlic, dried vegetables. There's also salt in there and pepper and various different herbs and spices. So I make this up whenever I run out. And instead of using a carton of chicken broth or vegetable broth or whatever, whenever I make a soup, then I put in some of this soup mix. And if anybody is interested in having a recipe to that, then I will be very happy to send it to you. My email, my name is Win, W-I-N. My husband's name is Cal, K-A-L. Stick them together, you got Winkle. So winkle@simpatico.ca, and any recipe you want.